Yeah, I'm Shira Lazar. It's been really crazy moving from Web 2 to Web 3. Where are my Web 2 people at? Yeah, a lot of old friends here, familiar faces and new friends. And actually, we all met because of NFTs now. You haven't been on my Women Web 3 Twitter Spaces, have you? We're doing a Twitter Spaces soon. We're doing it. But yeah, so we've met through that. I do Women in Web 3 weekly Twitter Spaces on Wednesdays, and I've been able to highlight some amazing female-led projects and leaders in the space. But first off, Dr. Peace kind of went into your projects, but let's dive in a bit deeper in terms of the inspiration behind each of your projects.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start. So thank you, first of all, for having me here. And, thank you to everyone who's here. As they mentioned, I'm Gigi. I'm the founder of Crypto Tech Women. And to talk about Crypto Tech Women, I do have to talk a little bit about myself, since that's where the inspiration came from. So I started coding when I was 16. I stumbled upon it through Codecademy, got an ad. It worked out. I loved it. And as also mentioned, I'm from Venezuela. I was living in Puerto Rico, so very Latina. And in Latino world, talking about software is not something that it's common. So this whole time I'm coding and building things, and I have no idea the power that I have while I do this. It's just something I do for fun. I did try to go to college for it. I went to a college in Puerto Rico, explained what I wanted to do, and they're like, yeah, like, we don't do that here. I'm like, I want to do JavaScript. They're like, yeah, not here. Not sure what you're talking about. So that was at 16. So at 16, I started coding, kept coding my whole life, but didn't know this was a job I could have, didn't know the opportunity I had doing this. So I had different types of jobs. When I moved to LA in 2017 was the first time that I saw a real coding bootcamp, and with testimonials of people that had done it, and not only people, women, because that was the first thing I looked for. And after seeing the opportunity that I had doing this, I took a risk, joined the coding bootcamp, and after that, like 2 weeks later, I had my first software job. So that's like one of the things where, like, if we don't really talk about these things in our house with our friends, we don't know the opportunities that we're missing out. Fast forward into Web3, it was also a similar experience where I heard about it from Gary Vee, NFTs in March. I'm like, I love NFTs, but I had no idea how to start. I didn't really understand that you needed a wallet or how to buy anything. It wasn't until August that I finally had a wallet. So it was from March to August, and the only reason why is because I learned how to code Solidity through a friend's recommendation to do it for fun. Yeah. Loved Solidity. And then from there, I'm like, okay, like, let's get a wallet and figure this out. Obviously, like, at that point, I joined Web3 Twitter and started meeting a lot of people. But one thing I noticed is I couldn't find the women on Web3 Twitter. So I'm trying to find the women I should be following and connecting, because as a woman, it's so important to me to be able to meet other women in the space. And that was something that wasn't easy to find. And then bringing it back to Crypto Tech Women. So our mission is to empower the women that are part of the Web3 space. And this comes from my personal experience, where when I joined the Web3 space, there were amazing women projects. So why weren't those founders on lists that I could go and follow them and be inspired by them? Yeah. And then for the second part of our mission is to onboard more women into the Web3 space. And that also comes from my experience, where from March till August, I had no idea what was a wallet, what to even do. I got scammed on my first 2 weeks because I didn't know about wallet security. And that's like one of the things that we're trying to fix with Crypto Tech Women, where we want to be able to teach people, come here, let's get you a wallet, let's teach you about wallet security, Discord safety, and let's do this in less than 5 months.
So that plus you get a cool NFT with it.
And then yes, you have a cool NFT with it. It comes with utility. So today we did our first masterclass for our token holders. And this is something we're going to be doing, I think, bi-weekly, as we are building a Web3 educational platform So I'm very bullish about education, and our token holders will have access to a Web3 bootcamp where it's not only going to be about coding, it's also going to be about DeFi, how to build your NFT, and just educational topics, all regarding the Web3 space, while we also do the fun things like the meetups, the giveaways, the art drops.
Amazing. Crypto Tech Woman is the NFT. Go check it out. Moving on to 90s babes. Who's a 90s, or who remembers the 90s? Yeah. Okay, so 90s babes is a throwback for all of us. So let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to echo Gigi. Really grateful to be here today. So thanks for everybody here.
Over your mic.
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
You know, we're used to being on our phones where we're just like, hey, you know.
Yes. So hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Petty, and I am the creative director at the 90s Babes. And we are a generative collection celebrating all things 90s. And, you know, the start of 90s Babes really kind of goes back to part of my background as well, right? I remember when we got our first family computer, and I remember that my parents, for the life of them, could not figure out how to work it. And so, you know, it was always something that I loved, though. At a young age, I remember cranking on the dial-up and waiting for it to load. And I don't know, like being on the internet and seeing so much opportunity and possibility really, really sparked me from a young age. So I decided to major as a computer science major, which is how I ended up at Google. And I loved it. I really never thought I was going to leave. But one thing that I realized while working at Google was I was working with these different marketing agencies across the country, and yet my hands were tied from being able to do some real good for people, right? You have to follow all of the policies, and, you know, you can't intervene where it's not your place, X, Y, Z. So broke away from Google and started my own marketing agency with the goal of, you know, not delivering marketing as usual. We really wanted to be able to help people. And so that was what Digital Radar set out to do. And so flash back to August of last year, one of my longtime best friends was like relentless, like, you gotta check out NFTs. You gotta get into the community. You're gonna love it. Wait till you meet everybody. And I'll be honest, you know, when I first jumped in, I was very much like, JPEG, what? What is this? I don't understand it, right? And so, but very shortly after that, I saw like just so much opportunity and potential. And much like you, Gigi, you know, I also saw there wasn't a lot of women in here, you know, doing it initially, that at least that I could find, I should say. Which, you know, similar with Web 2, I was like, no way, we got to change that, you know? So I jumped straight in, and when coming up with the idea of the 90s Babes, we really wanted it to be something where we could empower other women through NFTs, right? I had a good friend of mine who had been struggling financially for a really long time. She's got 4 children, total amazing woman. And she got introduced to NFTs, and like a spark lit up in her. She all of a sudden saw opportunity and possibility to break free from like the debt she had been in and the struggle she had been going through. And like, that to me was so inspiring. I'm like, okay, how can we capture that and build something to help bring other people into the space? So that's really where, you know, when thinking of the idea of the 90s, it's like in the 90s, there was a major tech boom. And our generation's already done this before, right? We've found our way through this new technology that's NFTs in the Web3 space now, right? And now we're pairing it with that feel-good nostalgia of the 90s and kind of bringing that back full circle. So with the 90s Babes, that's our goal, right? We want to have fun, and we want to help bring NFTs and Web3 to women where they're at. So we're focusing a lot on other social platforms. You know, a lot of my friends who are not yet in the Web3 space, if you try to get them to set up a Twitter account, much less a Discord account, they won't do it, you know? So that's something that we're really focused on is, you know, how can we bring Web3 to them and show them, you know, the opportunity and the possibility that's here. And so that's, you know, with 90s Babes, what we hope to capture.
Amazing. Yeah, I got to check it out. Well, yeah, with that said, yeah, a little round of applause. With that said, I feel like you are targeting a certain demo, right? When you talk about like 90s Babes or crypto tech women, but still, how the barriers for entry are pretty high, right? It's like, to be able to get a wallet, you need to have money. Like, there's a privilege that goes into being able to do this. At the same time, on the other side of it, I've heard amazing stories of people like breaking generational like trauma and like scarcity through NFTs and crypto. So I guess what are you seeing, and how do you go about onboarding people who are skeptical? And then also, how do we go about not getting in debt? Because you could be spending lots of money and not making it back. Like there's very little liquidity sometimes. So how do we, I guess, approach those two sides of it?
Yeah, I will say for Crypto Tech Women, for us, one of the things that we're planning to do is with our educational platform, be able to give scholarships for people that may not be able to afford a paid entry or even a token. So that's one of the ways that we want to help educate people that may not have the resources to jump into the space. Having said that, I also think the fact of, doing giveaways for those that maybe are in different groups of like being able to buy NFTs. But I think most importantly, it really is education. I think with NFTs, a lot of people don't even know what is utility to an NFT, and they just
do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah. So obviously NFTs, there's a range of them, and we usually focus with the JPEGs or the art NFTs, where we do see a visual to it. This is not always the case, because you could have an NFT that's a music, right? You can have like a Web3 like music NFT. It could be a game. When you get this NFT, you might be getting a parcel for like a play to earn game. So it can get really complicated. But for utility, it's usually those NFTs that do something else besides just giving art. Like ours is an example where you get access to an educational platform. There's others that are access to parties, like we're seeing here, right? There's so many parties, and you have to be part of this community and be a token holder. And there's others that are just art. So understanding the difference of what do you get besides just owning an NFT, and if that is important to you, because having said this, not everyone needs utility. I love utility, but I also love art. So if something is just about the art, that's amazing if that's what it is for you. For people that may not have the economical resources to be investing in art, understanding utility is really important, because that way they understand what do they get access to with this community besides just looking at the floor and thinking, when can I flip this? They're saying, wow, this NFT gives me this much value outside of just the value it has on OpenSea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do you have any thoughts around that as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, the initial question was kind of how also can we get this to people who might not have the same opportunity, right? And, that's something that we've been talking a lot about lately is, like I mentioned a second ago, reaching that audience that isn't on Discord, that isn't on Twitter, that maybe isn't even in the mindset of owning an NFT to get access. And something that we're working on developing right now is going to be educational webinars, educational avenues that are for non-token holders as well. We really want to provide a resource. I have so many friends that are very talented in their own way, but they don't know where their skill sets can fit into Web3. And that's actually what I love about Web3 is that you can take something that you're passionate about and you're really good at, and you can build a career out of that. There is people looking for event planners and, social media marketers, whatever that looks like. So that's one of the avenues that we're working on.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. No. I think that's so important. You also, I think that a big part of bridging the gap, and even though part of what's cool about this movement is it feels underground, like not mainstream yet. We're part of this like cool club before everyone like discovers it. But then we need it to get legitimized. We need it to get bigger. Both of you have partnered with different talents even in this space to help do that. Can you talk about, you partnering with iJustine and of course Randy Zuckerberg as well? Go for it.
Yeah.
And how that went about, because I think a lot of people try to figure out like advisors or talent, like how you each went about doing that.
Yeah. So for Crypto Tech Women, everything has been organic. So we have not paid any influencers to partner with us, and it's been, iJustine was an amazing coincidence. For those of you who don't know her, she's a woman leading in the Web2 tech space. She has her podcast, she has her YouTube, like amazing women to know. And so with Crypto Tech Women, we do Sunday educational Twitter spaces for anyone who's on Twitter and wants to learn about what's tokenomics or staking or DeFi. We just do like different topics every Sunday. And one of the Sundays we were doing Crypto 101 with this amazing lady called the Coin Girl. She's in London and she's been in crypto for a few years. She happens to be friends with iJustine. So iJustine joins our Twitter space to support her friend. And while she was there, she saw Crypto Tech Women on our mission. And then after that, we just kind of clicked. She messaged me. She was like honestly someone that I was kind of starstruck with because she was so genuinely nice. And the people in our Discord were like freaking out about her joining the space. And I'm like, hey, like if you ever would like to join a space, let me know. And she's like, oh yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So we did a space, and after that, we just became friends. And she's been on a few Twitter spaces, and she's also crazy in the fact that when our mint happened, so she minted on like the pre-sale, so she minted 2, and then later she messages me, she's like, I need better chance of getting one that looks like me, so she bought 10. And I'm like, okay, I see you. So she's for me, I think making organic relationships in Web3, where it's not about the transaction that you can get from each other, but about building a genuine relationship, has been what's been a real differentiator for us.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in there. I remember when we were first getting started, I was really hesitant to reach out to anybody. Anybody that had bigger followers kind of scared me away. And one day I was just, like, why not us, right? Like, we've got a strong mission, we've got a strong team, and we're all really, really passionate to bring this to life. And so just kind of put myself out there and started reaching out on behalf of the 90s babes, and was amazed, got connected with you, Shira, got connected with Randy Zuckerberg, and Randy, she loved the 90s. She's a 90s gal herself, and she just loved it. Yeah. So that was a pretty, that was an amazing connection to make. Got to meet Debbie, her business partner.
She has an organization now called Hugs, which is like an incubator or accelerator for projects post-mint, though.
Yeah, so we were actually, we're her second project pre-mint.
Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of exciting. We're happy to be a part of the group with all of these amazing collections. But in terms of, advice, I'd say don't be scared to put yourself out there. The one thing that I've noticed in the Web3 space is everyone is so nice and wants to help each other succeed.
Yeah. What do you think the future holds for women in this space? I feel like this is a women-themed kind of panel. And then also, there's so many allies here. Like, what can other people do who are not women to support the women in this community?
She's so polite. So for the first part, I'm super bullish for women in the Web3 space. I think it's amazing how many women we do get to see now more and more, because like the difference from August to today, it's amazing. I love that women are becoming more outspoken. They're joining Twitter spaces more. For my collection, I had a lot of women that were first-time mentors. And I'm super bullish on, like, for us to be able to get a platform will inspire more women to join, right? Because we kind of look for others that are doing it. So I'm so bullish on that. And I think, there's so many projects, like including ours, that have so many initiatives on how to get more women onboarded and feel safe and be in welcoming, like, communities that are not excluding to males, but they are inclusive for all. So that's one of the things that I'm super bullish for. And then for the second part of the question, which was
what about like allies? Like, what can people who are not women do to be better allies?
Yeah, I'll say my personal take, and I don't think everyone has to agree with it, is that I do think for allies, they just don't have to treat us differently. So if you are supporting a male project by tweeting, commenting, sharing it, do the same with us. If you have a Twitter space and you usually invite guys in it, invite the women too. It's all about, for me, it's about creating that same equality where you don't treat us like aliens that need a special treatment. Treat us as equals. And, as equals, also understand that we are a minority in the Web3 space, and try to include us in the conversations and be very aware of the environment that you're growing within your community, within your Twitter spaces, and see, think about it and say, okay, maybe there's no women joining here. Am I doing something that is making them feel excluded? And also be open to feedback, because I think as women, we love giving feedback because we want to see you improve. So if someone says like, hey, maybe these are the things that you're doing that could, make me feel more included, listen to those, because at the end of the day, women are here to stay. We're not going to go anywhere, and you want us on your corner as well.
Yes. I was going to say something like, and we create you. So,
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Gigi. I think the only thing that I'd add to that, is don't stop putting your hand out to help somebody else up. That was something that I try to keep in mind every day, is if there's ever someone asking for help, it's like my responsibility in my mind, to extend my hand and at least help point them in the right direction or bring them on a Twitter space, whatever that small gesture is, because it was people doing that for me that really built my faith here in the Web3 space, just seeing how many people just without even knowing me were like, yeah, here, I'll help you. Oh, come on this Twitter space. Hey, I'd love to feature you. And I mean, that's what I aim to do for other people, because there's nothing more empowering than other people making space for you. So I think that's the thing I'd add.
what about, a lot of people are now talking about the space is different than it was even a month ago, right? Once you're a post-mint, and say whether you sell it or not, like how do you maintain that momentum? I think that's a big question right now. And do you think the space has plateaued, including female-led projects? It was like this big thing, World of Women. I'm a Boss Beauties holder, so yeah. But like we're now seeing so many women, which is so important. But then also, how do we maintain the traction and make sure that women's that the art is getting sold versus just being there as a placeholder or as like a buzzworthy kind of trend?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I've talked to a few people, and they all call it the $1 million question as well. I think it's all about cultivating your community and how you speak to them. So post-mint, some projects do have a lot of traction instantly, maybe because they raised funds before or like whatever it is, the process that they establish. Where I think like for some women projects, what I've seen is we are kind of like doing things the right way, and we want to build correctly, not just like put things out there. So I think the way that we communicate with the community and keep them engaged, right? So maybe you won't have everything done the next day after your mint, but you are doing events that keeps them in the loop while you're building. So kind of like what we did with the master classes while we're building our Web3 educational platform.
So you're both still selling, right? Or no?
I minted out.
Okay,
yeah,
you minted
I
out.
sold out.
All right, they're still minting 90s babes. Get it while it's hot.
Yeah, and definitely get it. Art is beautiful. But yeah, so I think for yes, definitely.
But that's also the thing. It's like you don't need to sell out. Like this idea, sell out for success. So many of the big projects right now did not sell out right away. So I feel like that's kind of what sucks right now. This idea.
I think it's a bad mentality to have. Like I was very lucky to sell out, but I think it will come, and it doesn't have to come in 24 hours. It's about how you're building. It's not about who gets to sell out the faster. But I think it's all about how you cultivate your community post-mint. What things do you do to keep them engaged, or while you're minting, continue to provide the same value or even more that you were providing pre-mint. I think it's all about how you provide value to your community and for them to feel like they're valued, they're heard, and they're included. So I think like there's not a big difference there. Just keep doing what you're doing with them and making sure that they feel heard and they feel loved.
Yeah, and to add to that, I'm a really, really firm believer. If we want to build something with, I actually heard someone say this before, want to build it with heart and not hype. And that is something that has stuck with me, because the community members that we have, I mean, they are like Team 90s babes. I mean, they're like your biggest supporters. And it's beautiful seeing a community that's grown and risen up with the same mission, right? They all want to see us execute onboarding more women into the space. And so big believer in that as well. And I'm so sorry, what was the beginning
just
of the
about like
question?
how do you maintain the momentum after you minted or still trying, finishing the mint?
Absolutely, yeah. And exactly what Gigi said, giving people a reason to believe. For me as an investor, that's always something I'm looking for. I'm looking for who's the team, what are they planning to accomplish, and then what's their roadmap to get there. And not just their project roadmap, but what are their plans to execute on the things that they say they want to bring to life.
And so what's ahead? Well, I'm going to go to maybe questions from the audience here. Great group of people that ended up showing up here. Thank you so much. Shout out to all of you. What's that lies ahead for each of your projects?
So for us, we are going through a roadmap. Master classes are going to be continued, and we're looking for speakers. So if you're a speaker at any topic, because we do believe we have so many different community members, all topics are included. Let us know. We want to feature you. Twitter Spaces are going to continue in our roadmap aspect. So we are going to do another charitable donation. We are currently taking the community's input on the charities that we should be kind of like evaluating. We're going through that period right now to make sure that we're selecting. Well, actually, it's going to be a snapshot vote. So the community is the one that's going to be selecting the charity that will be voting, that will be donating to. The Web3 educational platform is one thing that's getting built. We're doing some in real life events, having one tomorrow here in Austin. That's going to be really fun. And then I kind of like always forget everything that we're doing.
There's a lot of other stuff. So you're doing a charity donation every quarter, or is it consistent in that way?
So our current structure is just going through the ones that we have in the roadmap. But yes, we're planning to do one every quarter where we will get the community's vote on, like what type of charities we want to support. And then from there, making a list and making it a snapshot vote. Another thing we're doing is a community wallet. So we have funds allocated for our community fund where our community can do proposals into things that they think we should be doing, and then also do it as a snapshot vote. And then for anyone who's not familiar with that concept, is where token holders get to vote based on the tokens they have. And then at the end, you make a decision based on like the community's vote. So that's super exciting for us.
Yeah, and so as we're working through our roadmap, the first thing we got to hand out was a fully stacked Nintendo 64, which, let me tell you, getting to pick out the games for that was probably one of the highlights so far.
Is that a giveaway?
It was a giveaway, yeah. So that was one of our first giveaways. And right now we're actually working on something really close to my heart. We are purchasing 10,000 copies of the I Love My Happy Mama book, which is written by Blake Nolan. And it is so inspiring. It's a kid's book that is really meant for the mom, because throughout the whole book has inspiring and uplifting messages. And the whole purpose is to bring support and shine a light on postpartum depression and maternal mental health. So it's something I'm really excited about because, even before getting into NFTs, each of us on the team had been looking for some type of a way to get involved with our local communities and to give back. And so we've kind of decided to combine both. We're purchasing the 10,000 copies, but then we're also going to go into local facilities in each of our locations and give this book to women who really need it. So that's something we're looking forward to dedicating our time as well as our money to doing.
Amazing. All right. With that, I know we're going to wrap up. Do we have any time for questions, Melissa? Or no? Should I just say goodbye? Questions? No? Okay, we don't. You could tweet us, slide into our DMs if you have any questions. Say hi. We appreciate you all for being here, and thank you so much, Great Daily, for having us. Woo!